The Unexpected Suspects in the D.B. Cooper Case, a true crime documentary. Good evening, night owls. Welcome back to another chilling episode of Whispers in the Dark, where the shadows hold secrets and the unsolved mysteries of the world come to life. Tonight, we journey into the stormy skies of 1971 to explore a mystery that remains unsolved despite decades of investigations, theories, and dead ends. A crime so audacious, so impossible, that it could only have been committed by a ghost or a man who became one. But was he truly never found? Or did the truth lie buried beneath layers of deception, false leads, and a trail gone cold? Tonight, we delve deep into the shadows of those who might have been the elusive D.B. Cooper, the suspects, the legends, the lies. Get comfortable, or rather, don't. The truth is stranger than fiction, and this tale is one that will keep you up at night. To understand the suspects, we first need to revisit that fateful day, November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving. It began like any other at Portland International Airport. A middle-aged man, dressed in a black suit, white shirt, and narrow black tie, walked into the terminal and purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle. The ticket was under the name Dan Cooper. He boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, a Boeing 727, along with 36 other passengers. As the plane took off, nothing seemed unusual until he handed a note to a flight attendant. It was a threat. He had a bomb, he claimed, and demanded $200,000 in cash for parachutes and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle for when the plane landed. The airline complied, fearing for the safety of the passengers. Once on the ground in Seattle, Cooper released the passengers in exchange for the money and parachutes, keeping only the flight crew on board. The plane took off again, this time heading toward Mexico City. Somewhere over the forests of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper did the unthinkable. He opened the rear door and parachuted into the night. Never to be seen again. The first suspect, Richard Floyd McCrae. Our first suspect, Richard Floyd McCoy Jr., was a decorated Vietnam War veteran and a helicopter pilot, known for his daring nature and skydiving skills. He lived in Utah with his wife and children, leading what appeared to be a normal life. But beneath that facade, McCoy was a man with a taste for adventure and perhaps crime. On April 7, 1972, just a few months after the D.B. Cooper hijacking, McCoy executed an eerily similar crime. He boarded a United Airlines flight, hijacked it, demanded $500,000, and parachuted out over Utah. However, unlike Cooper, McCoy was captured shortly afterward and sentenced to 45 years in prison. However, there were differences. McCoy's physical description didn't match Cooper's exactly, and he was in Las Vegas on the day of the Cooper hijacking. Despite these discrepancies, McCoy remains a strong suspect. Some argue that he might have been inspired by Cooper, rather than being the man himself. Was McCoy a copycat, or did he perfect his craft after the first successful heist? The lead that wasn't Dwayne Weber. Next, we turn to Dwayne Weber, a man whose story is as puzzling it is compelling. In 1995, Weber, a World War II veteran with a checkered past, was on his deathbed when he allegedly confessed to his wife, Dan Cooper. His wife, Jo, claimed that Weber had strange nightmares about leaving fingerprints on a plane, and once took her to a place in the woods he said was where D.B. Cooper had jumped. Curious, Jo started investigating and found eerie connections. Weber had an extensive criminal record, a history of skydiving, and was in the right age range. He also resembled the composite sketches of Cooper. However, the FBI found no direct evidence linking him to the crime. His fingerprints and DNA didn't match those recovered from the hijacked plane. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, Weber's confession and peculiar behavior make him one of the more intriguing suspects. Did Weber truly know something, or was it just the ramblings of a dying man? In 2003, a man named Lyle Christensen claimed that his brother Kenneth had hinted at being D.B. Cooper before his death. Kenneth was a quiet man, a disciplined paratrooper during World War II, and later a flight attendant for Northwest Orient Airlines. He had experience with airplanes and parachuting, and he even lived in Washington, near where Cooper's jump might have taken place. Lyle pointed to Kenneth's sudden wealth after 1971 and his obsession with the D.B. Cooper case. However, The FBI was not convinced, while Kenneth matched the description of Cooper in some ways. He was shorter and thinner than the witnesses recalled. Additionally, no money from the ransom was ever traced back to him. The con man, John List was a man with a dark past, whose story intertwined with the D.B. Cooper legend in the most chilling way. In 1971, List, a devoutly religious man, murdered his entire family in their New Jersey home, then disappeared for nearly 18 years, assuming a new identity. The murders occurred just weeks before the D.B. Cooper hijacking, leading some to speculate that List could have been Cooper, financing his new life with the ransom money. List was a quiet man, meticulous in his planning, and eerily calm in the face of chaos traits that could fit the profile of D.B. Cooper. However, there's no concrete evidence linking List to the hijacking. He denied any involvement, and the timeline of his crimes doesn't fully align with the Cooper case. But the possibility remains was John List, a man capable of unspeakable crimes, also capable of pulling off the greatest heist in history. The anonymous tip, Robert Rackstraw, a Vietnam War veteran with a penchant for deception, has long been one of the most controversial suspects in the D.B. Cooper case. With a background in explosives, parachuting, and psychological operations, Rackstraw certainly had the skills to pull off the heist. In the 1970s, he was involved in various criminal activities, including forging checks and faking his own death. His military record and dubious past made him a person of interest for many years. Some investigators believe Rackstraw even taunted the FBI, sending them anonymous letters supposedly from D.B. Cooper, filled with cryptic codes and references to the hijacking. However, despite years of speculation, the FBI never charged Rackstraw, citing a lack of direct evidence. Rackstraw himself denied being Cooper, though he seemed to enjoy the attention. Was he the mastermind behind the heist, or just a man who reveled in the chaos and mystery that followed? The outsider, William J. Smith was a name that surfaced much later in the investigation, brought to light by amateur sleuths and independent researchers. Smith was a retired railroad worker from New York, who fit the profile of D.B. Cooper in surprising ways. Born in 1928, Smith was the right age at the time of the hijacking, had military experience, and had lived through financial hardship during the Great Depression, potentially providing a motive for the heist. His work in the railroad industry would have given him the knowledge and experience to plan and execute a crime with precision. Some researchers have speculated that Smith's knowledge of train routes and schedules could have helped him escape undetected after the jump. Adding to the intrigue, Smith bore a strong resemblance to the FBI's composite sketch of Cooper, with his glasses and receding hairline. Moreover, Smith had a connection to the Northwest, having lived in the region during the 1960s. However, like many other suspects, there is no hard evidence linking Smith to the hijacking. No money was ever traced to him, and he was never formally investigated by the FBI. Still, the circumstantial evidence makes William J. Smith a compelling, if lesser-known, suspect in the D.B. Cooper case. The co-pilot theory. Sheridan Peterson. Another intriguing suspect is Sheridan Peterson, a man who, in many ways, seemed to fit the profile of D.B. Cooper perfectly. A former Marine and experienced smoke jumper, Peterson had a long history with Northwest Orient Airlines, where he worked as a technical editor. His expertise in skydiving and familiarity with the Boeing 727 made him a natural fit for the role of Cooper. Moreover, Peterson was known for his adventurous spirit and had a penchant for taking risks, both in the air and on the ground. In 2003, Peterson was identified as a potential suspect after he jokingly hinted at being D.B. Cooper in a letter. While the FBI took a closer look, they ultimately ruled him out, citing his age and a lack of definitive evidence. Despite this, some conspiracy theorists believe that Peterson's connection to the airline and his unique skill set make him a viable candidate for being Cooper. The businessman Lowell Crane, a successful businessman and former paratrooper, was another name that emerged as a possible D.B. Cooper. Crane was known for his shrewd business acumen and had a history of financial troubles that could have driven him to attempt the hijacking. He also had military training, including experience with parachutes, which aligned with the profile of the hijacker. What made Crane particularly interesting was his connection to the Pacific Northwest and his financial situation around the time of the hijacking. Despite being a wealthy man, Crane was under significant financial pressure, which some believe could have motivated him to pull off the heist. However, as with many other suspects, there is no concrete evidence linking Crane to the crime. The FBI never officially investigated him, and his family vehemently denies any involvement. Still, the combination of financial desperation and military training keeps Lyle Crane in the conversation. The Professor Ted Mayfield, a former college professor and pilot, is another suspect who came under scrutiny for his possible involvement in the D.B. Cooper case. Mayfield was an experienced skydiver and had a deep understanding of aviation, making him a plausible candidate. In the 1970s, he was involved in various illegal activities, including drug smuggling and insurance fraud, which showed he had a criminal mindset. Mayfield was also known to boast about his connections to the D.B. Cooper case, claiming he knew who the real Cooper was or, at times, implying that he might be Cooper himself. His eccentric personality and erratic behavior led many to believe he was hiding something. However, despite his boasts and suspicious activities, the FBI never found any hard evidence to link Mayfield to the hijacking. He was eventually ruled out as a suspect, but his mysterious connections to the case remain a topic of speculation. As the years have passed, the legend of D.B. Cooper has only grown. The suspects are numerous, each with their own compelling story and connection to the case. Yet, the truth remains elusive. Was it McCoy, the daring copycat who almost got away? Or perhaps Weber, whose deathbed confession still haunts his widow? Could it have been someone like Rackstraw, who reveled in the mystery, or a quiet man like Christensen, who took his secret to the grave? The D.B. Cooper case is more than just a heist, it's a puzzle with pieces that may never fully fit together. The FBI officially closed the case in 2016, citing a lack of new evidence. But for those who continue to search, to dig through the archives, and to connect the dots, the hunt for D.B. Cooper is far from over. And so, the whispers in the dark persist, an unsolved mystery that lingers in the night, waiting for someone to finally unlock its secrets. Until then, we can only speculate, theorize, and wonder who D.B. Cooper really was. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, the truth is out there, lurking in the shadows.